Bang! Neves Knives. I'm Jared. My lovely wife, Kara, is busy. And this is the Damned Designs Djinn. An S35 VN blade steel, titanium frame lock, titanium clip. And yeah, it's a pretty small knife though. And I want to first off thank Russ for supporting us for so long. He supported us for a long time, being awesome to us, always leaving his comments, letting us check out some of his knives, having great conversations with him, and just being so awesome to us. So thank you for that, Russ, for just all your support, man. It really means a lot to us, and we love having friends in this community, and he's definitely one of them. So this knife is a small knife. 1 7/8" blade length, so it's just under 2 inches. 4 7/8" total length, just under 5 inches. And just to show you a couple other small knives, this is the Kaiser Lieb, which you can see dwarfs this guy, and this is a small knife already. Here is kind of a similar knife, the KANSEPT Goblin, which is bigger, but if you go from this point, they're very similar in size, but you have this corner right here that does extend out a little bit farther, but same materials, front flipper, same reverse flicking action. So these guys are very similar. We do have a review on the KANSEPT Goblin. Another guy, we got the Kaiser Shard, which is another one that's very small, but, is longer than this one. And then one last one, the CJRB Swags Maileah. So this is the CJRB Maileah, also very similar. Front flipping action, except for this one has the thumb studs, but it is a smaller knife as well. Now, for being such a small knife, I would call it a 2-finger knife, right? I had 2 fingers there. It actually locks in because of this ramp right here with the jimping. It's because it's a harpoon drop point blade shape, but I can really lock it in. I also want to apologize for the videos, the past few videos. I didn't realize that I had switched something in my my uploading process, which was uploading my videos at a lower quality. I appreciate you guys informing me and letting me know that the quality was junk. So, like I was saying, it locks you in right there because of the way the pressure is, and because it's thick, it's a chunker. So even though you only have 2 knives, you actually do lock in. Now, in this grip, we actually get 3 fingers. Same thing. I can really lock in. Now, this little tiny spot right there, I can technically squeeze my pinky on, or if I'm doing the 2-finger, I get the 3rd finger right there, which also applies pressure this way. Then this finger applies pressure this way, which really makes it lock in. So surprisingly, this thing can be a little, pretty comfortable. Now, this grip right here is a pretty standard grip for it because it's so small. You kind of just push it right up into your palm. But the blade geometry is a little thick, it's a chunker, but it's not too bad. And because the geometry isn't horrible, like from the taper, even though it's relatively thick behind the edge, and I'm not going to say really thick, it's almost 20 thousandths behind the edge. And then the spine thickness isn't crazy thick, but it's also a short little blade. So that could be improved, but it still cuts rather well because you lock in so tight. So cutting with it really isn't that bad. Like I said, the geometry is, I would call it average. I wouldn't call it great. I wouldn't call it bad. I'd say it's right in the happy medium. So it doesn't cut too bad. It actually goes through materials and passes through materials. Not too bad, rather decent for the size, especially since this isn't going to be that kind of knife. This is going to be like your improvised knife, your secondary knife. And even if it is your primary knife, it's your primary knife because of the type of cuts you do. If the type of cuts you do are just simple box opening cuts, and every once in a while you might need to, slice something in half, this is great. And the utility cuts, even though it does have a rather big belly on it, the big belly makes it to where, or even though it has the big belly, it's a short knife. So you can lift up and get to that tip very easily without losing a lot of leverage. So you have the harpoon, so you can put your finger right behind there and kind of push the butt of the knife into the materials. Or you can do the standard pinch grip, put your finger right on the spine. Either way, it winds up working out pretty decent considering it has a big belly. Now, you still do have that belly in the way, so it's not going to be the best at utility cuts. So I wouldn't make it my utility cutter, but for an improvised utility cut, you can definitely do it. Or if you're just opening things up. If you're just opening packages up, this thing's going to work great for that type of, that type of cut. Let's get into the action, because as you can see, even though it's just a little guy, it has a pretty cool front flipper, right? It's kind of like a mohawk. And because it has that, man, this thing is easy to top flip, front flip, whatever you want to call it. I mean, this thing is so easy. You can go from the front, where you just put your finger right there like that. Oh, that was my fault. Or you can go right from the top and just lay your finger right on top. I mean, I can even do that type of front flip, and I'm not great at doing that, but this thing is so easy to front flip. It's very natural. And because of the thickness it has, you actually feel like you're hanging on to something, even though it's such a small, compact knife. It's very, very easy to front flip. Now, the reverse flicking hole, it's so small you wouldn't think that it would be any good, but same thing, very easy to do. Because it's thick, you actually have something to hang on to, and the detent is relatively light, but well tuned. I honestly wouldn't want it any different. So the lock bar access, the thumb flicking action, I'm sorry. Thumb, not so good. You can do it, but it's not the best, but you can do it. It's not as easy as the reverse flicking action. The reverse flicking action is just, it works a lot easier. But the lock bar, easy to get to. It does have jimping on it, so it's nice and thick too. But you can easily get to it, and then you can use your pointer finger to push the blade forward, then your thumb to close it. Or if you want to drop it, you can do one of those. Now you see how far it drops, so it doesn't have too much farther to go. When you do that, it is on bearings, so it's not drop shutty or fall shut action, but it doesn't have far to go once you unlock it, so one little slap will do it. But yeah, nice and smooth, pretty fidgety for such a small knife, and very easy to do it because of its chunkiness, basically. In this case, its chunkiness really makes it really benefits you as the user. Now, it is a little tiny chunker and has a titanium milled pocket clip that works really, really good. And even though, it's as chunky as it is, because it's so short and small, it doesn't take up hardly any room at all. It winds up working out just fine. The clip in and out of the pocket works really good. I'm actually pretty happy with this clip. It's not too tight, not too loose. It hangs on really good, and it's smooth in and out of the pocket. No complaints on this pocket clip. And in the hand, aside from the way it goes in and out of the pocket, in the hand, yes, I feel it, but you would think you'd feel a lot more. Now, when I'm up here like this, I feel it a little bit more than when I'm back here, but it's such a small knife, I'm not going to complain about how the pocket clip feels because it's really not that bad. Now, if it was a deep carry clip, yes, it would be bad. But because you have this little ramp right here and, it's not really sharp on no angles or anything, it's not too bad. It's actually relatively good considering. Now, a couple other good things about it. To take it apart, you have the Torx bit here, and then this is locked in place. You see how it fits perfectly. Now, if you look how tight that is in there, I'm happy with that because you can see it can't move. Now, I've seen other knives that were supposed to be like that. Then you go to unscrew them, and this just spins. It's crazy, but I can actually look at that and see it's tightly fit. The hardware for the pivot, I can tell it's been, somebody tried to mess with it and stripped out the screw a little bit. I didn't do that. Hopefully it's not really soft, but just know that it might be a soft titanium pivot. So be careful with that. Most likely, if you'd ask them, they would just send you a new one, but I don't want to mess with it to find out. Now, the contouring and all the edges are like, you know, you can see how it's got the chamfer right here. Everything's knocked down and really soft. I love the stone washed finish, the blacked out stone washed finish. You can see the satin finish on the blade. I like the logo, really cool. The jimping is well done, very sharp. This is like the type of jimping I love. I love this kind of jimping. Nice and sharp, very grippy, very easy to grab, and it gives you a lot of traction. So much traction that it makes it actually work. I don't like jimping that just, it's like soft and rounded and just, you know, like you feel like you're just going to slide over it. I hate that. So this is very, very well done. Internal stop pins, there's a track around here where the internal stop pins lock up. It has a great lockup, very, very solid. You can see it's at about 90%, but in this case, a lot of times I'd say that's bad, but in this case that's okay, because I can see that the lock bar insert is basically that thick. So it's just locked up fully under the lock bar. It's not over traveled at all. It's just rock solid. Very, very solid. Both directions. I'm very happy with that type of lockup. Now, some complaints. One, this clip is inset, which I do like, but it's not tight enough. So where it's inset at, it will move. Even if you tighten this all the way down, I can technically move it. So what that means is that it's not tightly fit. If you're going to do one screw, it's got to be tightly fit inside that hole. It's not reversible. You can kind of see the gap right there. How there's like a gap in front of it right there. So it's not perfectly fit. Now, if it had two screws, it wouldn't move at all, but it doesn't. So that is my one complaint. Next complaint, the choil is done good. I'm happy with the choil. It's fine. The plunge grind's back here. They left you plenty of room. No complaints on the choil or anything like that. The grind looks pretty even, but yeah, the grind looks relatively even. Everything, you know, is knocked down really good. But I would like a little bit better geometry out of it. Being such a tiny knife like this, what are you doing with it? You're not going to be axing with it or batoning with it or prying with it. But in this case, you might be able to, you know, because it does have a relatively thick grind. Not that the blade stock is crazy thick, but it's definitely thicker than it needs to be. Now, the handles are nice and thick, which is fine because it gives you something to hang on to, but the geometry could have been just a little bit better. Even though it cuts pretty good, you know, it's just that much better, and you get a little bit more life out of it too, because the more you sharpen this, the thicker it's going to get. If it was thinner, then you know, you could sharpen it a few times without it really getting thick. Next thing, like I said, this possibly is a soft titanium pivot. I never like to see that. I've seen it many, many times, even on very expensive knives where you, it's just soft. You know, it's like the titanium is not hardened. So that could be the case with this. I can't be 100%, but that's exactly what it always looks like when I deal with soft pivots. Next thing, you guys already know T6s. I don't like to see T6s. T8s is better. You know, a T6 right there wouldn't have been bad, but they should have put T8s all over this. It just works out so much better. You already see, you know, how this is stripping out. These look like decent hardware. I'm not sure if they're titanium or if they're steel, but being T6s, they're just easier to strip out when they're T6s. T8s, not as easy, so works better. In this case, it's, you know, probably just soft titanium. really, that's about it. I can't really find too many bad things on this. Now, whether or not it's a knife for you, that's another story. But the fit and finish, the detent is all well done. I'm actually pretty impressed. I never would have thought I would like this knife or be as impressed as I am with a little knife like this, but it actually is. It's actually really cool. And, you know, for a secondary knife or even a primary, you know, just depending on what you do, this is a pretty cool little knife. And a lot of times with these small knives, when they're well done, it's pretty cool because, you know, it's, for one, a big knife, you could say, okay, that's easy to do, it's bigger. But when you get to these little tiny knives, you know, the parts are all smaller. They're, you know, it's just, sometimes it could be more difficult. I don't know, I'm not a knife maker, but it just seems that it could be, because you're trying to get all these little parts to fit just right. And in this case, they did do it pretty well. And yeah, very, very cool little knife. There you guys go. The Damned Design Djinn. Thank you, Russ. And let's see if I can do it left-handed. Bang! It's so easy to front flip. I love you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.